Tokyo Imperial University, March 1924. In an early experiment with nuclear energy, Professor Hontaro Nagaoka directs 150,000 volts of electricity at a mercury isotope under a dielectric layer of paraffin oil for 4 hours. The purpose? To strike out a hydrogen proton from the nucleus of the mercury and produce a new element. Gold. The experiment is a success. Professor Nagaoka has solved a mystery that has eluded scientists for centuries. The mystery of the Philosopher's Stone.
The Philosopher's Stone was an idea that you could have a magic kind of material that would turn lead or some very inexpensive metal into gold. The thought that one could do that is attractive in and of itself.
For thousands of years, kings sought out this mythical device, one that could create gold out of common metal. Scientists and alchemists spent centuries trying to invent one. Even Sir Isaac Newton obsessed over the mystery of the Philosopher's Stone in the 17th century. Although the English crown, fearing the potential devaluation of gold, had made the practice of alchemy punishable by death. By the time of Professor Nagaoka's experiment in 1924, most of the scientific community had declared the process of producing gold from another metal impossible. But that quickly changed once they knew where to look. The secret of alchemy lies in the stars.
metal. That's what I always thought of them.
But they're not. They're living things with souls like ours. And once I spoke to one.
Look, in a few minutes there are going to be feds all over this place, and I don't want them finding our Holy Grail.
You know that story we were all told as children about a giant asteroid that struck the Earth millions of years ago and wiped out the dinosaurs?
Vaguely.
We were wrong. This metal caused the Great Extinction.
I think that you've been out in the field for far too long. Why don't we discuss dinosaurs over dinner? Ribs? Ribs? Ribs?
Not a chance.
You have no idea what's been happening here. We're about to make the quantum leap.
A rare earth metal. Molecularly unstable. Industrial uses. None. And then the aliens came, and we made the connection. It's what they're made of.
It's the Holy Grail. Transformium. That's what we're calling it.
Focus grouped, catchy, trademarked.
Yeah. This is the greatest advance in modern physics. It's a programmable matter.
But now we can begin to give it instructions.
We can change anything into anything.
Sensual almost, don't you think? You like music? The Pill. Perhaps something a little more violent?
Well, we've all heard of the bird flu, and we've heard of tuberculosis, and we've heard of flesh-eating diseases, and there's a number of things that have been going around in the media the last few years, including AIDS, which is still there, and now we have, even strange as it sounds, we have a rise to almost an epidemic level now of rabies, which we typically associate with animals. But when it crosses to the human barrier, to the barrier between animal and human, crosses that barrier into the human, there is no treatment. There is no cure for rabies. Now, you may not have heard this. This is not necessarily new, but it's coming to the forefront. In the
you know what this makes me think of?
What's that?
The zombie apocalypse.
Absolutely. And that is the context in which the mainstream media right now is placing it, is in the zombie apocalypse. Because that's exactly how people present themselves, if you will. I'm speaking medically, but that's how they appear and how they behave is like a zombie because of the effects of rabies on the nervous system. There were last year and even earlier this year, there were actually drills conducted by our government on the zombie apocalypse and how would first responders, police officers, firefighters, paramedics, how would they deal with these people? So it sounds far-fetched to the average person who hasn't heard this before, but this is nothing new. But let's go beyond the rabies. Let's talk about people getting a flu shot or getting a avian flu inoculation. There is another very insidious disease, if you will, which is really a man-made disease. It's a biological construct called MERS coronavirus out of the Middle East. It's the Middle East respiratory syndrome. It's made its way into Europe to a certain extent, and eventually, because of air travel, it will reach around the world. It's another example of where inoculations or vaccines are being derived, or they're trying to derive for. That, again, I always like to go all the way to the end. What's the purpose? What's the goal? If you have a man-made or engineered virus, why was it created? Is it simply just to kill people? Well, that's one part of it, but if you go further and you go deeper than that, it is to get people to demand a vaccine, a shot, if you will, or a pill. Why would, if you're in a position of control, of power, of ultimate power, why would you want people to demand a vaccine? Well, it's because something's in the vaccine that you want people to then have as a part of their body. Well, what is in the vaccine that you want everybody to have inside their body? It is a DNA manipulator or modifier. I mentioned earlier third-strand DNA. There is already, and you can find this on the internet, in existence, a third strand of DNA constructed of silicon. Again, we go back to the silicon chip in computers. The third strand is made of silicon and is also coated in gold. If you talk about nanotechnology and nano layers, this is extremely thin coating of gold down to a billionth of a millimeter of gold that is coating the silicon from which you are building a third strand of DNA. The purpose of the gold is to increase the surface area around this strand so that more information can be digitally imparted or programmed. You're essentially, what you're doing is you're creating a third strand of DNA. You are transferring that or imparting it into a person's body through a vaccine that that person's demanding because they're afraid of contracting MERS coronavirus or avian flu or whatever it may be. And so the government, if you will, or the powers that be sit back and they kind of chuckle when they say, well, we couldn't have forced people to take this vaccine or to take this hidden third strand of DNA, they would rebel against it. But if we create the problem and present the solution, people will demand the solution. Thus we achieve our ultimate goal of having this DNA in every person changed. Well, let's go deeper. What's the goal? What's the purpose? Yeah, you go around and change everybody's DNA. What do they become? They become a hybrid. The insidious part of this is that once a person is injected, almost immediately their DNA undergoes transformation. Almost immediately they lose all awareness of the fact that they've lost their independence, their ability to think on their own, to make decisions on their own, and to affect them on a moral level. Their moral independence, their beliefs, religious, moral, ethical, legal, all of those go away. If you remove the independent thought and that awareness that you've lost your independence is gone, what then do the powers that be do with these new forms of humans, hybrids? They can control them. They can turn them into a serf class. Not S-U-R-F, not surfers, but S-E-R-F, a class of slaves to serve the elite, to serve the Ray Kurzweils of the world who want to achieve immortality, but they need to have labor to manufacture, develop all of the technologies. And they have enough technologies now. The technology, the scientific world, if you will, has reached the level where they don't care about hiding it anymore. Their agenda is so far advanced, both politically, philosophically, their sense of morals, and technologically, that no longer are they worried about you and me as the serf class and the coming serf class. They're not worried about what we think. They're not worried about us rebelling. And in fact, we won't rebel, partly because right now we've been so dumbed down through a variety of mechanisms. But once people demand the virus and they truly are dumbed down to where they've lost that awareness that something's happened to me, now they can do what they want with us. They are achieving what I call the hive mentality, like a beehive. Worker bees, soldier bees, serving the queen. The queen, in my estimation, is this elite class that's in power, and it's not the politicians. Forget the politicians. This has nothing to do with Republicans, Democrats, Tea Party, Libertarians. It has nothing to do with political structure or classes. It has to do with the small group that is in control and has been in control since ancient times.